What's up? This is Release Rotation. I'm your host, John W. Snyder. I am going to apologize again, even though I don't have to. But this was supposed to be done Sunday, posted Monday. Well, it's Tuesday, and it's not going to be posted until late Wednesday, the 13th of March. So I apologize for getting it out late for my listeners who are expecting it on Monday. I know that's really bad form and a party foul by me. So I apologize for that. And again, thank you for listening. But here we are, 62. I'm not going to lie, it's hard, but it's fun. Having a full-time job and trying to get this in is challenging, and I wish I had a lot more time to dedicate to this because I enjoy this more than anything I do outside of hanging out with my family, because it's a awesome creative outlet for me, and I like to talk about sports and what's happening in the world and what's going on. So thank you again for listening to this podcast. Still trying to work out kinks, trying to figure out things. It is probably going to sound like I'm whispering with a soothing voice, and that's because my family is asleep. I think my wife's watching The Bachelor, at least the end of it, and both of our kids are asleep. Another reason it's a little delayed is because stomach bug hit our family, at least our kids so far. The wife and I, we have been spared from this so far, and I pray and hope that we do not get sick, and we hope that our kids feel better tomorrow. So it's not fun when you have a little 2-year-old throwing up. So I'm not making excuses, but another reason that it's late and that I'm just now getting to this. And speaking of my wife, last week I had mentioned that it was her birthday and that she wouldn't even hear me wish her a happy birthday. And I was at work the next day and I get a text from her saying, and all it said was, "I do too, listen." That's what even though it was a text, that's what her voice would sound like. So I want to apologize, and I want to thank her for listening to the ones that she does listen to. So we had a good laugh. I did not think she listened to them, so there you have it. So I'm going to switch gears here, but 2003, 2004 was my last year at Oklahoma State. I managed to cram 4 years of education into 5.5. So I actually graduated December of 2003. But that year was a special year because that was the year that Oklahoma State basketball won the regular season title, the Big 12 tournament title, and went on to the Final Four. It was a magical run, and one that I don't think a lot of people saw coming, but it happened. The Final Four that year was Oklahoma State, Georgia Tech, Duke, and Connecticut, which was a perfect Final Four for me, being that I was, at the time of the Final Four, an Oklahoma State grad, but I still had season tickets. I was an intern at KFOR in Oklahoma City with Van Shea Ivan as my mentor, and I also got to work with Bob Berry Jr. and Bob Berry Sr., who taught me a lot during that time, and it was super fun, and I was so fortunate to be finishing up school, having an internship there, and so I got to enjoy this magical run as a student with my student tickets for home games. And then as an intern, I got to go to the Big 12 tournament, and I went to the first round of the NCAA tournament. It was in Kansas City or Dallas. Ooh, can't remember. I got it mixed up, but I'm pretty sure it was Kansas City. And so I got to go to the first round of that too. And then I went to the Final Four with some friends. And so it was an unbelievable time, an unbelievable season. Eddie Sutton, head coach, who should be in the Hall of Fame. He's been nominated too many times, but because of things that happened at Kentucky and Arkansas, they don't want to let him in, which I think is ridiculous. But anyways, so unbelievable team. Some amazing players. Tony Allen was one of those guys. Joey and Stephen Graham. John Lucas was on that team. But it was an unbelievable team. So fun to watch. And that year also happened to be the last time that a team other than Kansas won the regular season title or shared the season title that wasn't named Kansas. Kansas since then has won 14 straight regular season Big 12 basketball titles. 14 straight. That's insane. So the 2004-2005 season was the first year they won the regular season title, and it continued for 14 seasons and ended this season. That's an incredible run that I'm not sure we will ever see again. And 14 years is a long time. Very long time. A lot of stuff has happened since then. Since a team besides Kansas won the regular season title. George W. Bush was in his first term as president. Nobody heard of the iPhone. Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, that wasn't around. Facebook might have been around, but only at Harvard. Social media was in its infancy. The only thing we really had was MySpace, right? Who remembers MySpace? You had your top 8. You had Tom. LiveJournal was another one. Zanga. You could kind of create something, post something. But that's really all we had for social media. It was really MySpace. And it was really learning how to code, which was kind of funny because you could put music in, pictures, different things. I don't really remember it that much, but because it was so long ago, but that's all we had. The top websites, from what I remember, there was a website called eBombs World where you got to see some ridiculous stuff. Homestar Runner was a hit. Something else that was a hit was AOL Instant Messenger, which was amazing. That was the OG of text messaging. It was fantastic. You remember when the door opening, if you were logged in, that meant one of your buddies was coming online, which was awesome, and then you could chat. But a lot's happened in 14 years. And that Kansas streak began. And that's insane. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because that's just an insane streak that I'm not sure we will ever see again, at least in my lifetime. My kids might see it one day, but I don't know. That's just an incredible streak. So kudos to Kansas for that incredible streak. Can't say much more about it other than ridiculous. Tons of amazing players came out of that Kansas program during that time, obviously, because they were winners. Insane. So Kansas basketball, my hat's off to you. And this was a tough season. You had a player leave the program and just some other things, but Texas Tech with Coach Beard stepped in. Amazing. Kansas State had a year. And so, incredible. So that's part of the sports I want to talk about. Kansas basketball. I still can't get over that. I didn't even realize it was 14 years until I heard that the streak had broken. I knew that they had won a lot of regular season titles, but once the streak was broken, they talked about it a little bit more, and that really blew me away. So who would have thought? The next thing, real quick, which had I done this on Sunday night, I wouldn't have been able to talk about what happened last night in the Utah Jazz Oklahoma City Thunder game with Russell Westbrook getting into it with a fan, which isn't new in Utah. It happened in the playoffs, and I just saw a video circulating on Twitter of that interaction, and some of the things were said. You can go look for it. You can search for it, but I'm not gonna talk about it much on here because it was just rude and uncalled for, and Russell Westbrook snapped back at the fan and then last night a fan just kept going at him, and it sounds like some racial things were said, and Russell Westbrook went at the fan and his wife, I guess, verbally, which I doubt he would have or really will do anything to a fan physically. It doesn't make sense, but verbally threatened a fan. And so Russell got fined $25,000. And then I just saw about an hour ago or 2 hours ago that the fan has been banned from all events at the arena where the Utah Jazz play. And it said all events, so I'm guessing it doesn't matter what it is. If it's sports, a concert, whatever. But he is not allowed back into the venue. So, interesting. And I think they both were in the wrong, obviously. Russell should have just walked away. The fan, complete idiot. But I'm not defending either side here. But I also, what do you do as a player? I mean, if it keeps happening, especially, it's hard to ignore. But your options are to say something or to walk away. And Russell chose to say something. He got fined $25,000. The fan got banned for however long. I think life is what they've said for now. That could change over time. Who knows? The Utah Jazz have come out saying that they're going to look into this more, and the players have. And then I saw there's other NBA players coming to Russ's support because this isn't the first time something like this has happened in Utah, apparently, which I don't get it. I don't know why it's like that in Utah, but that is what has happened. And so we'll see. I don't know what the solution would be to keep fans from interacting with players like that. And it's not I'm sure fans do that to more than one player, obviously, but we just haven't and don't hear much about it. So not really sure. I'm not sure what's going to happen and how the NBA can at least solve this or take a look at it and see what the options are to make it a little different and a better experience for everyone involved. So I don't know. We'll see. So this is the point in my podcast where I like to take a break. Last week, I guess I wasn't really paying attention, and I guess it just ended and went to my ad and then came back without me setting it up or anything, which I thought would be okay. And then I got some feedback from some people that was a weird transition there. So this is the point where I'm gonna take a break. I do want to pay for a cup of coffee this month with my ads, so we'll be right back. And we're back. But for real, if you want to start a podcast, Anchor is the way to go. I'm not going to repeat the ad, but Anchor is awesome. It is just amazing. Go to anchor.fm and check it out if you're interested in starting a podcast, because it You can do it all right there. And the iPad app is pretty awesome. So check that out too. This next thing that I want to talk about is something close to my heart, and that's local businesses. I know I'm switching gears, which this is always what I do. If you've listened to my podcast before in the last several weeks, is I talk about sports, do my ad, and then get into something a little bit different than sports. And this week, I just want to talk about local businesses and that they're awesome and they need our support. And local businesses need support from other local businesses. And I have a lot of ideas when it comes to that and how we as consumers can support local businesses. If you are a local business owner, how you can support other local businesses. But I think the reason that I care so much is because my grandpa started a hardware store in Edmond, Oklahoma. If you're familiar with Edmond at all, or you listen to this podcast, and you're from Edmond, Snyder Hardware used to be, it was across the street from where Evoke Coffee is now. It wasn't there at the same time, obviously. Snyder Hardware closed early 90s, I want to say, 92, 91, maybe 93. I'm not sure. But it was started by my grandpa after he came back from the Korean War. He was an electrician, and then came and he was city manager. He was mayor of Edmond, and he then opened up a hardware store in Edmond. And I was born in 1980, so I got to experience a little bit of that. And I do have certain memories which are hilarious and no one cares about, but one was I remember the gumball machine at the cashier, the checkout. It was a nickel for a gumball. That was awesome. And I also remember the water fountain in the back where they would do lawnmower repairs and all of that. If you held it down, it would overshoot the entire water fountain. And as a 6-year-old, I thought that was hilarious. So those are a couple of my memories of Snyder Hardware. And I just remember the customer service that they had. And at the time, they knew everybody. That was the place to shop for your hardware stuff and to get a lawnmower fixed, a weed eater fixed, because they did repairs too. And then, like I said, in the early 90s, I'm pretty sure it was early 90s, that Snyder Hardware had to close its doors. So, that it is what it is. Now I look back and I think that if I was a little bit older than 10, 11, 12, if I was 23, 24, that it might have been one of those things that would have been cool to take over and try to make succeed. Who knows? Not that I've ever owned or operated a local business, but just the fact that it had my name attached to it and it was in the family, it would have been at least fun to try to see what would have happened, especially knowing now all I know about customer service and business a little bit better. It would have been one of those things that would have been fun to check out, fun to try. But I am glad that I have those memories of Snyder Hardware and some pictures, and it's a cool piece of my story. And I also bring that up just because, of having to close its doors. There's local businesses that start every day, and there's local businesses that have to close their doors every day. And these local businesses depend on us. And I know that it's up to the local business to do marketing, to do whatever it takes. I mean, again, how is their customer service, But it's up to us. And I just think that we all have a friend or relative who now has opened up a local business or trying to start one, and we need to support those people. So I love going into local coffee shops and any other stores that I can find. When we lived in Dana Point, California, there was a hardware store that I would go to when I could have gone to Home Depot or Lowe's, but just because I know how hard it is, and knowing that it was a local business in Dana Point that was there, I wanted to support it the best I could. And so if I needed tools or anything, I would go there. And they're still open. I think it's awesome. But those places need us. And, you know, I bring up coffee shops because I feel like I can think of, just off the top of my head, 7 or 8 local coffee shops around here. And then even in the Oklahoma area, there's a coffee shop in Guthrie, Oklahoma that is owned by my family. Some of my family members, I should say. They're cousins on my mom's side. And it's called Hoboken Coffee in Guthrie. They've been open like 6 years. And they do amazing customer service. They roast their own beans. You can order their beans online and have them shipped to you, which is what we do. And so that's just, you can search Hoboken Coffee, Guthrie, Oklahoma, if you want to see more about that. And if you want some coffee beans, that's the kind of support these places need. And I bring up, again, coffee shops because there are a lot of coffee shops. Even where I live here in California, I can name 2 or 3, 4 local coffee shops that I can drive to in under 15 minutes. And sure, they are, I guess you could call them competitors, but I also think these coffee shops need to work together. How can they help each other out? How can local businesses help each other succeed? And also, though, what can they do different to set themselves apart from the same type of business down the street? For instance, a coffee shop, you know, you could have one 5 minutes from another, but if they change up their menu a little bit, then what the other one's doing, you know, for one roasts their beans that I know of, the other one doesn't. And so it's cool to see how these local businesses support each other. In San Juan Capistrano, there's a place called Hidden House Coffee. They roast their own beans. But if you go to local restaurants in the area that serve breakfast, those local restaurants serve their coffee. So Hidden House has gone into these local restaurants and said, hey, do you want to serve our coffee? And so they have a mutual relationship there where Hidden House roasts some coffee beans and restaurants down the street sell their coffee. And so that's pretty awesome. And it's figuring out those ways and those partnerships for local businesses. And so I just, sorry, I'm kind of at a loss for words because I know I kind of ramble when it comes to this stuff, but I think just because of Snyder Hardware and seeing it close its doors, that more than anything, I wish it was still opened, and I wish it was still owned by someone in our family. To this day, there's something about it, and I think that helps keep it a small town mentality too, I guess, because local businesses, I mean, I know they're everywhere, but it's different when it's in a small town and it's a place where a lot of people go. And that's the other thing about local businesses. There's a cafe here called Lola's, and the owner, Matt, is awesome. Loves music. Lola's it's actually named after his dog. But he's someone I'd love to get on this podcast just to ask him about his restaurant and how it got started and, what his hopes are for it. But I love going in there, and if he's there, he always knows my name. He says, "John, how's it going?" And so I think that's one thing that I love about those local businesses is they know you. It's like Cheers, where everyone knows your name, right? That's how I feel about local businesses. So get out, support them, find one in your area, find, coffee shop, hardware store, whatever it might be. Find a local business that you can support, and it'll make the world a better place, I think, because we need local businesses. That's all I got. Thanks for listening. This was episode 62. Talk to you later.